Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third annual Obsidian Studios Backdrop Challenge. I am so excited to be hosting today. This is year 3, and I can't believe I'm lucky enough to get to do this for 3 years in a row. So let me go ahead and introduce the rest of the judging panel today, and then they will tell you a little bit about themselves. Please welcome and comment over in the chat, and that will bring you up and let everybody know you're here and you can say hi. So please join me in welcoming Jay Coy, Derek Suhu, Pratik Naik, Ashley Casales, and Maddie Gelman. Welcome, everybody.
Hey, everyone.
Hello.
We already have some comments from friends showing up saying hello, and they're here, and they're nervous. So hopefully you guys are really excited by the incredible images you see today. So as everybody knows, we are here to celebrate the incredible contestants and entrants of the Obsidian Studios Backdrop Challenge. You're going to see some amazing things today, and judging these images and helping to choose the finalists and the ultimate winner are the amazing panel that you see before you. I'm going to go ahead and have these guys all introduce themselves so that you know a little bit about them before we get down to the judging. And we'll go ahead and start with the co-owner of Obsidian Studios and incredible photographer, Jay Coy. Jay, go ahead.
Hey, everyone. I'm Jay Coy. I'm one of the co-owners of the Obsidian Studios. I'm also a conceptual fine art photographer and maternity photographer from the Boston area. That's what I do on my free time. The other time during the week, I am a civil engineer for a local municipality. And that's really about it.
Right on. Derek, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Derek Suhu. I'm also from the Boston area. I studied as a fine arts major in college. So I'm the artist and the painter for the Obsidian Studios. That's good.
So all his skills are going to be showing up on camera today. Don't be nervous. Maddie, how about you? Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Matti Gelman. I'm a fine art photographer. I'm from New York City. Well, I live in New York City. And I shoot commercially as well, usually for art for shows, dancers, actors, off-Broadway mainly. But lately I've been focusing on my fine art career, and it's been a journey and a pleasure.
So glad to have you. Ashley, how about you?
Hi, I know a lot of you are intimidated to be here. So am I, because a lot of you are my friends. I'm so grateful. Thank you for letting me participate again. I am based out of the Dallas Metroplex. I am a fine art and self-portrait photographer, and I can't wait to get into this. I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
Yay. And finally, Pratik, let everybody know a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Pratik. I'm also the second Texan here. I'm based out of Houston, and I am a photo retoucher, as well as a photographer and a founder of Infinite Tools. And I'm very excited to be here. This is going to be an epic show.
It is. I'm so excited. And my name is Nicole York. I am the founder of The Artist Forge. I am also a novelist, a fantasy novelist, and a photographer and digital artist. And just really super glad that I get to host this year again, because every single year these images have just gotten more and more incredible. And I feel really lucky to get to see them firsthand like this. So I'm going to go ahead and hand everything over to Jay, and he will give us some more information on these images, and then we'll get to start seeing them live.
Thanks. You're exactly right. The images every year just keep getting more and more incredible. And I'm so glad that I don't have to compete in this challenge, because I would not do well at all. So if you don't know a little bit about the Obsidian Studios, we're a backdrop company from the Boston area. As you know, Derek is our fine art painter. Does incredible work. Still to this day, over 4 years later, I watch him paint and still have no idea how he does it, and I actually am watching him do it. We kind of aim to create a unique take on backdrops. There's definitely a lot of backdrop companies out there, so we try to be a little bit different, a little bit more edgy, to take everyone's images to the next level, as you'll see soon. I just wanted to pass it off to Derek to talk about the theme of this year's backdrop. So for the last couple of years, we have had a theme for the backdrops. So Derek, if you want to talk about this year's.
Yeah. So this year the theme is kind of like a general like metallic scape over just like the different kinds of metals. But more so, one of the drops that kind of inspired the launch of it is basically the Rejuvenate backdrop that you'll see. And basically, it's more of like kind of getting past barriers or any sort of like blockades, whether it be like in life, creativity, or just in general. To almost kind of see like the preciousness of what's beyond and stuff like that, to so people don't being afraid of trying something new, doing something different. And I think the challenge itself kind of wraps itself around that sort of like creativity and just trying to like rejuvenate the artist in people to try to project themselves into something that's maybe different and a little more shiny.
It's great. On top of the Rejuvenate drop, we had an Obsidian Rose Gold, an Obsidian Gold, an Obsidian Copper, and Obsidian Silver drop on top of the Rejuvenate. So there was 5 drops. So the challenge itself, why we're here. So for the past 3 years, we've basically put out a questionnaire and application for photographers and artists to join the challenge. We go through and we pick the top 14, 15 artists, whatever that we want to have enter into this year's challenge. And then Derek creates these secret backdrops so none of the photographers know what they're getting. We send them out to the photographers in rounds. So this year we had 3 rounds. So we send the 5 backdrops out to each photographer. They then pack that backdrop up and ship it out to the next photographer. We don't reveal any images, any behind the scenes, any pictures of the backdrops until everyone has had a chance to open the backdrop and look at it, and then the floodgates opened. The images that rolled in throughout the competition, Derek and I got to see because obviously they were coming to us. And I just speechless. Every single image, all of the artists should be super proud of themselves. And speaking of the artists, I'm going to introduce them. So this year we had 14 participants from all over the country. And that was Lucia Keel from Santa Barbara, California, Josh Beaton from Chicago, Illinois, Duke Mulberry from Weir, New Hampshire, Stacy McDonald from Adel, Iowa, Fernando Rodriguez from Chicago, Illinois, Lindsay McDougall from Barrington, New Hampshire, Jessica Fenley from San Diego, California, Rebecca Shepard from Parsons, Kansas, Michelle Santelic from Crown Point, Indiana, Angela Anderson from St. David, Arizona, Rachel Langlois from Little Rock, Arkansas, Jennifer Gifford from Ocala, Florida, Mary Bell from Kissimmee, Florida, and Amber Brusky from Winchester, Mass. We were all super pleased with these artists. I can't say it enough, but all 14 of these images easily could have won. And I can't wait for everyone to see them. So with that, we're going to get started. And we're briefly going to introduce the 7 images that didn't make the final top 7 critique. But because of all of the images being so incredible, we wanted everyone to see them and, to be able to be on this live feed because they deserved the air. So we'll start with our first image.
All right, here we go. It was so hard not to clap for all the people I know, but yay.
I know.
All right, here we go.
So this image is called The Agony of King Midas by Michelle Santelic. And this is a little bit about a blurb of what she had to say. Many people perceive gold as a symbol of wealth and status, but what happens when we are blinded by the importance of relationships in order to attain it? When we saw this gold backdrop, it reminded us of the story of King Midas, in which he had turned his daughter into gold by accident because of his greedy wish for the golden touch. But what would a modern spin on the King Midas story look like? What would it be like to lose everything, even your lovers, all because of greed? This image depicts the absolute end, the true moment of realization and pain. There is nothing left for King Midas, only his gold. such a beautiful image. Thank you so much for participating, Michelle. We absolutely adore this image so much. And on to the next one. So this image is entitled Phoenix by Angela Anderson. And this is what she had to say. This model had overcome incredible odds and risen above some absolutely horrendous trials. You can see some of the physical scars in the image on her arms, legs, and even throat. She is now working towards earning her GED and has recently been accepted into a prestigious local modeling program. I met her at a drive-through oil change place. As she changed my oil, I felt absolutely inspired to ask her to come to the studio and model for a personal project. Her scars were covered. I knew nothing about her, but something inside told me we were destined to work together. She later told me that seeing herself in the images we created gave her the courage to try to make something more of her life. Watching her overcome and rise above has inspired me to walk towards my own goals through adversity. So when I opened my canvas and saw what felt to me as the open sky above a rolling fire, I knew I wanted to create a phoenix, and I knew Tammy was the perfect embodiment. Such a cool story.
Oh, it's so good. And
is
the audience saying that it adds so much to hear the story with the image.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was something we wanted to change this year, to get a little bit more story and background of the images. We didn't do it before, and I'm sad that we didn't, because it does add so much to know what the artist was thinking and feeling and why they came up with their concepts.
Agreed. All right, here we go with number 3.
So this is called In Bloom by Duke Mulberry. He used our Obsidian copper backdrop kind of as the floor, which is a unique take on how to create an image with the backdrops. And this is what he had to say. Lately, I've been drawn to explore beauty standards through flowers. I see humans and flowers in the same light, both necessary and both fragile and delicate. And like flowers, most are drawn to other humans due to the exterior beauty. When this happens, all the inherent good that the person or flower may hold is ignored. Then in picking the flower, they destroy it in much the same way humans pick with the same reasoning and end up astray. But more to the point, all are beautiful and all are fragile. Most importantly, all should be handled with care. I really loved the beauty and softness of this image, and he definitely played in that flower to human role a lot.
All right.
And on to the next. Broken by Lindsay McDougall. Such a unique take on using the backdrop multiple ways. And this is what Lindsay had to say. I really wanted to keep the backdrop central to the story. I built from the basic idea of cracked or broken, and the idea grew from there. Seeing that as a backdrop challenge, I wanted to additionally keep the backdrop as a key part, not just the background that supports the story, but a main character. And do so keeping close to the real life colors, which I can tell you Derek really appreciates, because he tries so hard to with these backdrops that he loves to see people kind of keep them true to color and feature them a little bit like this. So I'm sure Derek loved this image just as much as we all did.
Love the symbolism there.
Mm-hmm. So this one's called Stuck by Mary Bell. So it's another self-portrait. So she said the pink backdrop is a very different departure from her type of backdrop she would normally use. It reminded her of bubblegum, so she was inspired to make herself look like she was swept in a piece of chest up bubblegum, which made the aesthetic more to her liking, a bit dark, moody, and painterly. And that backdrop was the Obsidian Rose Gold, which is, I've used it a couple of times since, and it photographs so beautifully in so many different ways.
Yeah, it's so pretty.
Mm-hmm. The next one, so this is called The Dreamcatcher by Amber Bruschi. So this image was created to give a whimsical look into the portal into our dreams. The Dreamcatcher is made from the plants and fabric webs as a form of protection, so that no negativity can pass through the Dreamcatcher. I love everything Dreamcatcher. I've always been a Dreamcatcher nut. I've always had them hanging from my rearview mirrors. I have a tattoo of one. So this image really spoke to me a lot, and I adore it. And this is also the Obsidian Rose Gold backdrop. And last but not least on our first 7 images is, I don't even know how to pronounce this, but I'm going to try, Le Soy Bleu from Rachel Langlois. So after reading what Rachel said about this, I had to go back to the image and really catch all of the kind of Easter eggs that she had in there. So this is what she had to say. Okay, so this has a lot of layers. First, I knew I wanted to use this whatever backdrop I received in her Disappearing Earth series. For this series, I spotlight various plants and animals that are or have been endangered, and I use only girls or women for this project to highlight a study that showed that women experience higher rates of violence and harm when climate is poor and resources are scarce. I also like to pull in my experience as an artist and art English teacher in my series, and to try to tie in literary or art references with the species I'm highlighting. For this image, I relied on my love of Andrew Lang's fairy tale books. This image specifically references the story The Bluebird, or original title L'Oiseau Bleu, which is a French Cinderella adjacent story. I was also inspired by old French postcards, which was fitting considering the French origins of the fairy tale I was referencing. Finally, I wanted to incorporate some geometry into my image and settled on using circles and round shapes to pull things together. I feel that circles are fitting. I used a bluebird for this species spotlight in Disappearing Earth because the bluebird has come full circle, transitioning from an endangered species to one of least concern due to conservation efforts in the eastern United States. I feel circles represent the wholeness of the humanity can have with nature and our precious ecosystems when we are working to minimize our footprints. For me, it also represents hope and the dawn, something bluebirds also represent in various cultures. There are other little Easter eggs in my image, but you won't go into spoil them for the viewer. While my image looks simple, I hope people enjoy looking at it and exploring little hints and messages I left for the viewers. One thing that I love is in the little crystal ball that she's holding is an actual bird's nest and eggs. It's really hard to see, but when you zoom in, she pointed that out in her stories today. And I was just like, I don't think this image, at the scale that we were all seeing it, was truly appreciated for how many little details and fine little details are in this image. And it blew me away when I learned more about this image. So again, thank you. That backdrop was the Obsidian silver backdrop.
Awesome.
Yeah. So again, all 7, it's funny when, people talk about voting and how every vote counts. And in this instant, it literally was the case. From the 6, 7, 8, 9 cusp, they were all literally 1 vote each apart. And I'm not even joking. Literally 1 vote. It was, and up until we closed the voting, it was going back and forth. And it was really, it was really incredible to watch. So again, to those 7 artists, we just went through your images. You really should be proud of yourselves. I know Derek and I are super pleased with all of your work. And, we are so excited to have you and so honored that you wanted to be a part of this challenge, and hope that you apply again next year. So with that, I think we're ready to start the top 7 images. And again, these are in no particular order at all. They're totally random. We're just to keep it on time, what we're going to do is we'll only have 2 of the guest judges talk about each image, and then Derek and I will close out our thoughts on each image. And then at the end of the 7, we'll announce the winners. Something that we're doing on the side is the judges, we have a little chat group on the side. So we're also giving feedback and kind of our input to these top 7 images as they come up, so that we can announce the winners at the end. So with that, Nicole, we can get started with our first image.
Oh, man.
I know. So this is image number 1. It's called Bad Apple. And I'll give a little bit of the artist's quote on this. And the artist said, "I wanted to reflect on the feeling of being the bad apple and having fallen far from the tree. So with that, I'll turn it over to Matty and Pratik to give a little bit of insight into their thoughts of this image, and then Derek and I will follow up.
So who should start?
Maddie, you should start. Yes.
Oh my God, how poetic do you want me to be? Because I can go
Do it.
forever with this image. I mean, I think the technically, I think the color, but Pratik, I mean, that's your area and the highlights. But in one word, I think you got it right. It's like one beautiful palette that I just love looking at. And the symbolism here to me just like screams Shakespeare, it screams classical painting, it screams Rembrandt. I love the use of fabric. I love the use of the partial nudity, the fruit. There is a use of a skull, which is, a lot of times when I see it in images, it's always kind of like, ooh, but which means it's a problematic subject to depict. But I think here it's so well done. What I see, the skull in the bottom, I see the person in the, like, kind of like in the middle of the center of the image, and then we have the tree, something like death, life, and the person in between. We have the backdrop, which I have no idea how it's done. I don't know if this is a composite or it's been shot outside, but this is breaking the lines of the backdrop with the plant is just, to me, incredible. I'll stop
Yeah.
myself because I can go on forever.
Maddie, you're right. It's interesting because I think today is almost more of a celebration of people's entries, more so than like a judging panel per se. Because like everyone did such a fantastic job this year, and even just seeing the ones that we saw originally, I was blown away by everything already. And what I want to say more, what I love more than like what can be improved so much, but one of the things I absolutely loved is a lot of the subconscious choices that were deliberately made. Like, for instance, I just like how, she decided to add the triangle in the top, in the background. It's just like, yeah, it's so interesting. It really guides the viewer. And then from there, you see like a stream of highlights hitting the tree, leading to her directly to her face. It's like a very intentional direction coming and hitting with the lighting. I even love the added depth of how right behind the background there's foliage and out of focus trees. It just adds so much layering. And then when you combine that with the fact that everything in this photo is very rigid, from how the background's standing stiff, the trees, and then to complement, her pose is very loose. It just like flows. The flow of everything is perfect, and like even the color grading, everything. I just absolutely love this photo. And that's pretty much what I have to say.
Wonderful. Derek, do you want to give your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that I noticed when I saw this image was just like the color palette, and it just kind of brings you into that mood instantly. Even if you didn't see the skull or even like the body, you already kind of have that mood going into like more of like the darker end of things. And just like adding all these layers, the skull, like the figure and form, and just like what everybody was saying, like the depth and like the layering from like the background behind the backdrop coming through the backdrop and then off into the floor. And as Pratik was saying, like the intentional like focus using the highlights just made it such like a very like powerful image, just drawing everything like to like the face. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree literally with everything everyone has said. When I saw this image, the one thing that really stuck out to me was so this is our rejuvenate backdrop, which you'll see a little bit more clearly a little bit later. And Lindsay used it with her double backdrops so that you see that crack down the middle. Stacy used this so uniquely by taking that crack out and having that tree come through that crack and trace down to her. And it was such a unique take on how to use that to her advantage. when it was such a challenging and different drop compared to the other four, that it stuck right out to me as, wow, this is so outside of the box of how I would have used it, that it was definitely an immediate kind of favorite for mine. I remember seeing her behind the stories during the time, or behind the scenes, or she posted a story, something about like, I'm doused in applesauce. And I was like, what is she doing? And I think if you zoom in close to her face, you'll see that she's like wet from actual applesauce. So I was like, oh, that's what she did. Do anything for the shot, I guess, right? So yeah, we love this image. Again, it's called Bad Apple, and it is by Stacey McDonald. So we can move on to the next image.
Yay! And I do just want to grab a couple of the comments really quickly, just run through them. Everybody cheering Stacey on. It's so incredible to have the support of our community here for these incredible artists. All right, image number 2.
So this image is called Ascent. It's by Josh Beaton. And this is what Josh had to say. When I saw the backdrop, the first thing I thought of was rust. That seemed too obvious, so I spent a long time, probably too long, just staring at it. With the reddish middle and blues surrounding it, I thought it also resembled a sky with a light in the middle. Then my mind went all over the place and I landed on an angel. I've always loved religious art and wanted to see what I could do. I wanted to create a peaceful scene of an angel during ascent. I really love how it turned out. And we also do too. So this is the Obsidian Copper drop, which is one of my favorite drops Derek has ever painted. It's this beautiful kind of aged copper. So it's got some of those bronzy coppery tones, but then the kind of the green tones that you see of aged copper. And yeah, and the way everyone used it is awesome. So I will turn this over to Nicole and Ashley.
Ashley, why don't you go ahead and start?
Oh, goodness gracious. All right.
I'll start next time.
Well, when I first saw this image, like I literally thought of ascension from darkness, like coming into your own light, creating new habits, becoming a new person. And my eyes, when I look at the image, they rise up with the angel and then they almost come back down in reflection of, say, maybe repentance or something, or where they came from. And then they rise back up with the image to the journey that this angel is on. I love this piece. I thought it was beautiful from the very start. My jaw dropped.
It's so good. I'm a sucker for overhead lighting, so this is something that will always get me almost every time, but I think it was such a smart choice with this because it really takes advantage of the way that the backdrop has been painted, and then to pull the color palette from the backdrop into her wings, I think is also a really, really smart choice, which also ties in to her tattoos and just kind of pulls everything together. And then the brilliant movement of the cloth that creates this great triangle, like you were saying, Ashley, it kind of leads your eye up to her face, and then the wings coming out from her head kind of pull you back down and around, and just the movement in that triangular shape. And then the contrast of the movement of the gown with the very, very stillness of the wings and of her hair. It's this kind of really great contrast of like textures and shapes, movement and stillness. And then to maintain a really, really limited color palette here as well is great, because it does give that feeling like you might see in an old painting where as the varnish yellows, it kind of in a strange way pulls the color palette together instead of having a lot of those, color contrasts. So I think a lot of really smart choices here by Josh to make an image that feels really timeless.
I agree. Totally. 100%. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It is gorgeous. And I love how he used the backdrop, the greens, where he pulled the greens out of it. But you can still see those peaks of that kind of bronzy reddish in places. And, to give this kind of ethereal angel look with that, moving fabric, and something, if you don't know about Josh, he actually makes a lot of his own wardrobe, dresses, and skirts and stuff. And it's really cool to watch him kind of build everything from scratch with fabrics and patterns and whatnot to create the looks that he's going for. So super happy with this image. Josh, well done.
Yeah, I definitely like the how he's like pulling all the colors in to the whole like image. I like the just the powerfulness of it. I guess I can say that. It's just like a very powerful image. It's just like dead center, and it's just like very symmetrical, and like the whole like uplifting, the movement that he's like created with like the the bottom dress, I guess. I would actually love to see this in like something like a series, and try to play a little bit more with like different dimension, more of like camera angles and like point of views, and really like play around with like a lot of like more powerful lighting, sharper. Yeah, I really love this.
That would be really cool to see a series of this.
Yeah.
Sure.
So take note, Josh. Series is. All right. And then just grabbing a few comments real quickly. The audience really recognizing some of those things that we saw as well, and noting Josh's style, which is great. Yes, and then it looks like a heart. So many great little Easter eggs in these images.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Are we ready for number 3, Jay?
Yes. Image number 3.
Here we go.
Madam Butterfly in gold, which is also using the Obsidian gold backdrop. So this image, I will say from the artist, it says, "I've had a vision of movement, feathers, and drama from the second I signed up for this incredible challenge. The theme was originality. The theme was originally just about the movement within the frame. Then I decided to partner with a local San Diego designer, and what she delivered ended up guiding a lot of how I decided to shoot. The backdrop then, of course, acted as a vessel in which to guide and contain the color palette. Butterflies through the set design were set around the model to entice the viewer to look further into the story, perhaps even create their own. The model was also very interactive in the set with the butterflies. It came together just as I first saw it in my thoughts." Beautiful image, which I will pass over to Pratik and Ashley to talk about.
All right, cool. Ashley, would you like to go first?
Again?
I'll go first. I'm just kidding with you.
Okay, thank you.
I think so. What with this backdrop, I couldn't think of a better color palette and choice of fabrics to use with it, because the what she's wearing reminds me so much of metallics, and I'm always a sucker for different metallics and colors, and it really gets your attention, the vibrancy of it. It complements the backdrop perfectly. I think they go hand in hand wonderfully. If I could probably adjust anything for the image, one thing would probably maybe toning down the highlight of the dress in the front, where there's like a really, really bright green part. And then I would have loved to even see maybe more butterflies on the dress, or some butterflies in movement or in action with their wings kind of being, out of focus or something like that, because it really like makes me wonder what she's thinking of, where she's looking at, kind of wanting a little bit more action in the frame. But it definitely caught my attention, and the colors and everything just pop and really come together really nicely.
I agree with Pratik 100%. When I first saw this image, it just like the softness just enveloped me. It felt like I was in a peaceful place where spring was blooming. I could read a book and just enjoy the atmosphere and just be in blissful peace. I loved it. And to go off of what Pratik said, that would be my only critique as well. That there's a hard line on the arm that I would probably have softened or brought down those highlights, and then possibly brought the butterflies around that arm to show that movement towards the one that's outstretching. But as far as critiques, that's pretty much what I've got. But it's a beautiful image. It just reminds me of spring, and that's the time right now, and it's blooming, and it's gorgeous. I love it.
Derek?
Yeah, the colors are, I was actually drawn like right away to like the green color. I probably would have loved to see this a little bit, kind of a little bit bigger per se, or like having the subject a little bit smaller, but like the butterflies to be kind of like overwhelming, over the top, to tell more of like the story. And then you were saying that it was like a lot of stuff with like the movement wise, so like I'm trying to like see like the fade of like the movement. It's almost like kind of like she's like moving backwards, like towards the right side. But I would probably love to see like more of like the dress itself, like kind of swoosh into that also, as well as like compositionally with like more butterflies like up on the top. But I like love the subject of this. But for me, I think it's a little bit too dark overall. Because usually when I think of like Madame Butterflies and butterflies in general, it's like, with people using like the season spring is to try to be a little bit more like lighter and brighter and more full of life.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just like for my taste anyways. But
yeah, absolutely. The only other thing that I would add to any of that commentary is that I would love to see this image kind of as like an animated image to really feel that movement of the butterflies moving and of the model moving. I feel like you want to feel that movement, but it's just because it's a still image, it's just a little flat, for the lack of a better term, kind of pun intended. Like I want to see these butterflies, flying around her and her interacting with them. It's like, tell me more, but it's hard to do that with a single image. But I do love how, she pulled in all of the colors and used that gold. And this is Jessica Fenley, by the way. So again, super impressed with this image.
Just got to catch a lot of butterflies. Then
yeah.
Our audience also in love with the colors. Really, really fantastic choice. And then very sweet from Jessica, thanking everybody for their insight, which is wonderful. Really, really, really beautiful stuff.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
All right.
On to image number 4.
Here we go.
Nope.
Oh. Well, that's unfair. Why didn't it load? Looks like we're going to number 5, and
Okay.
then I will load number 4 as we chat about this one.
Okay. Which is fine. So image number 5 is called Storytime by Rebecca Shepherd. And this is what Rebecca had to say. I wanted to show the power of childhood imagination and that magical feeling of a favorite story coming to life. All of us have fallen in love with a story or character that felt real enough to reach out and touch. The Obsidian backdrop is the connection between reality and imagination. So this is actually another Obsidian gold image, just like the previous image. And what I love about this challenge so much, before we get into critique, is just how different everyone uses the backdrops. And when you see the same backdrop image, that same backdrops, but the different images side by side, it's really incredible what goes through these artists' head. So with that, I will pass it over to Nicole and Pratik. And Pratik, you're going first this time.
Okay, if you insist, Jay. This was a really clever image, and we talked about one of the previous images possibly being a series. I would love to see this as a series too, because even if I didn't kind of read or hear the description, I could kind of already get the gist of what this was about, and it really made me wonder a lot about the stories that I grew up on and what inspired me. And also the execution was fantastic, because when I look at the part on the left with it all, for a moment I was like, was it shot outdoors? Was it shot indoors? What part was outdoors? What part was indoors? And how do they blend it together? And then it just kind of made me appreciate everything a little bit more, seeing the outside elements come in. Very clever way of doing it. I loved it. It blended perfectly, especially with the backdrop being, front end focused. I even like how the lamp kind of bleeds into the scene. It just really highlights both the backdrop and the main subject. The only thing I would probably change is going to be on the top right, where you see a lot of that negative space. I would love to see a little bit more light there, or something, some accent. Perhaps it was a very intentional decision. And I could see the purpose of it and how it balances it out. But all in all, fantastic, great color balance with the red and the green and the yellow in the middle. So very, very pleased. Love it.
Yeah, I would echo everything you said, Pratik. And I think I just want to highlight something really quickly because I know we didn't always get to see everything large when people were voting. So, of course, the book cover here, which is this gorgeous angel. And then down here at the bottom, she has spelled out Obsidian with the blocks on the floor.
I didn't even notice.
I didn't notice
Yes,
that.
which is so great.
That's
I love
amazing.
that so much. Yes.
Thanks for the shout
and
out.
then of course, yes, we have some open books. And going off of even what Pratik said a little bit, I would agree. I think because we have this darkness over here, the image ends up being just a little bit right hand heavy. And then I would have loved to see that this is very carefully, very lovingly posed. I would have loved to see to make it a little more clear that mom is reading and not just looking at a book so that we believe that this is a story coming to life. But aside from that, I think the concept is beautifully executed. I think the color palette is really lovely. That choice of, like you said, Pratik, contrasting the red and the greens, the browns and the greens and the gold, the overall color choice is really, really smart. The lighting is absolutely stunning. Everybody looks fantastic in this image, and yet we still have some practical light that feels believable. The placement of everything is obviously incredibly purposeful here, and you can tell how much thought was put into the execution of this image. The only other teeny thing, I think sometimes we can probably, with images like this, when we have all these great little details, sometimes the composition can get a little bit overwhelmed and you have to sometimes simplify so you can see a really great through line that carries the eye without getting lost. But those are all very small things in the overall grand scheme of like a really smart, beautifully colored, beautifully executed, posed and lit image. And one other tiny teeny thing, look at how wonderfully, look at her hands, look at those hands. How often do we have to struggle so much to get really great hands, and this wonderful little angel did such a great job. So I think that this was it's so good. That's it. It's so good.
And this is another image that I was watching the behind the scenes in Rebecca's stories after she posted them. And I was like, she literally brought a whole forest to her studio. She packed her car with trees and wood and brush and leaves and brought it. So this was not shot outside, which this was shot indoors. And I would have never guessed that the left side of the screen was like all stuff that she brought in. To kind of echo what Pratik and Nicole were talking about with kind of the negative space on the right, the one thing that kind of bugs me a little bit about this image is the lack of interaction between all three subjects. I would have loved to see what I'll say mom and daughter facing each other because that's who she's reading the story to. I would have loved to see that connection. That might have filled in a little bit more of that kind of open negative space a little bit, and to have Little Red Riding Hood kind of peeking in as she's like, you know, being this part of the imagination of the image. Where right now I feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect between the three of them. So that would be my only, you know, and again, it's a personal choice by any means, but that would be my thought to just bring this image to just bring it to a whole new level of feeling.
That's a good point, Jay.
Yeah. So like, I really love the warmth of this. It definitely brings you like into that space of, you know, reading a story to like the daughter, and it just kind of makes it like very like playful, you know, just like all these like little details all over the whole place. I think probably like something that I, you know, obviously you said you brought basically a whole forest into your studio. I want to see more. You know, like we kind of catch a little glimpse of like, you know, the leaves on the bottom left over here, so it kind of brings your attention to like swoop into the right side to kind of come into that space. But I would just love to see like a lot of more, I don't know how hard it is, but it's just like having more stuff in the foreground, you know, if you're getting like different perspectives from like Red Riding Hood looking in, and, you know, just trying to see like through like, you know, brush or something like that, as if we're just kind of not necessarily like spying on them, but we're just kind of like peering into like a scene that's like happening. So I think just like having a little bit like something like a foreground area kind of like makes us look into, you know, just their nice warm space from the outside. But yeah, I loved it, and
Awesome.
I didn't even catch the obsidian on the, the
Yeah.
little blogs.
Rebecca,
And what
I
do-
love that. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, Rebecca is
Love
such
that.
an incredibly thoughtful photographer when it comes to how she puts things together. Nothing is ever an accident when she does it. It's really incredible.
Automatic win.
All
All
right,
right.
so let me go ahead and grab.
Can we go back to image number 4? Is that possible?
Yes, we can. I don't know why it didn't open along with everything else, but we're going right now.
Perfect. So this is image number 4. It's called Fracture by Fernando Rodriguez. Fernando's quote behind this image and thought is, the concept behind this image was to create empathy and relatability for an inanimate object. The backdrop to me looks like a concrete wall that is being broken and split into half. How we respond to a cracked or injured wall, sidewalk, rock, etc., can be very different compared to seeing an animal or human with an equivalent injury. I asked myself, how would we react if we viewed inanimate objects like this wall as living beings? With this question in mind, I was inspired to paint a dancer into the backdrop so that we are seeing the life within the strong wall being broken. My goal was to emphasize the beauty and resilience of both the dancer and the wall. I will turn this over to Matty and Nicole.
Mati, would you like to go first?
Sure, I'd love to. This is so special because I think it would be, to me, it stands out because I think it might be the only one or one of the only ones that like the backdrop is part of the concept. And that's very interesting to see how it's being used together with the body. There's so many layers in this image. It's fascinating to look at because it's like full of dichotomies. I think if I would want to conceptualize it, there is the two colors. There is the tension. There's so much tension, and then the breaking of the tension. The body of the dancer tense and then breaking it gracefully. The rocks as a really hard material, as the artist mentioned, talking about a concrete wall, but then the stones are just kind of like falling down gracefully next to the body. The flesh compared to the stone. Um, it's beautiful. I also love looking at it. I think the composition is very compelling. The line from top down and down up. I work with dancers, so to me, I mean, this is speaking my language, so this is pleasurable to look at. And yeah, it's beautiful.
I agree. I think you nailed so many of the really important aspects of this image in terms of all of these contrasts of shape and form, of movement and stillness, of rigidity and curve, and of color and grayscale. And then this orange, which I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Derek, but I think he is punched up a little bit in post-production. It is right in that range where there's just a bit of discomfort in this color. It's almost a warning color. It's a danger color. It's a change color, right? And so to have that then break through the line of the dancer's body that way, I think is really, really fantastically symbolic. And then the grace of this movement and the fact that he's dropping the rocks on the floor really almost gives you the feeling as if he is the one making the break, as if he's the one tearing the wall apart and then scattering the leftovers of his life behind him, which I think is such a really beautiful metaphor. I can't say enough about how fun this image is to look at. And I agree in terms of composition. I love this straight line down the bottom, and yet we still have movement to one side. So you get the feeling that change is happening and movement is happening. And the fact that the artist chose this in order to anthropomorphize or to have us empathize with subject matter that is not alive, is really fantastic. My brother mentioned the other day, have you ever noticed that there's diamonds in the sidewalk when the sun shines, and just enjoyed the beauty of the sidewalk? And I was like, and I think this is one of those moments when you look at an image like this and you stop to ask yourself, when is the last time I looked at just the beauty of an inanimate thing that's there doing its job, like a crack in the sidewalk? And so this is a really fantastic image to meditate on. So well done.
Look at the texture on the body. Like when you zoom in, there is so much texture that is not skin anymore. It's this concrete stone cracked texture, which is just blends everything so well together.
Agreed. Jay, Derek, what are your thoughts?
Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, absolutely love this. It's so well balanced, and like it's even just with like, you know, the form and figure itself, and just like the delicacy of just like the hands themselves and how like just like the concrete's just like dropping off. Absolutely amazing. And you know, obviously with the symbolism with the color, you know, I think Nicole got that right, where, you know, the danger and just having a lot of these like contrasts and just like the subtlety of just like even like the facial expression, just like the upper body and how relaxed it is, and just, you know, just kind of curating that tension all the way through. I think the only criticism that I might have is if like the body positioning was a little bit more to the right side and the orange was actually going like straight through the heart. I think it could be a little bit more stronger in that way, because I think a little bit of it kind of like falls off into like the glute area of the butt cheek. But I think like having it spear like more towards the center of like the heart might be something to look at. Even having it have the head tilted back more and having it go right through like the neck. Sorry, this got a little bit dark, but
no, I mean, I can see that as well, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was going to be my thought as well, because I see the fracture going through the heart. And
Yeah.
if it was brought, I feel like if it was brought up just a little bit, so it was piercing the heart and cracking that stone, which life kind of does, you know, and you turn your heart of stone to a heart of gold. I feel like that's what this image really communicates. So I love that. Sorry, I had to butt in.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah,
that's okay.
You know, like the neck being like a very vulnerable spot on the human body as well. You know,
yeah.
So just.
I don't really have anything else to add because everyone else nailed it. Matty with the dichotomy of everything was incredible. It's funny. I actually kind of am mad at myself a little bit because when I first saw this image, I absolutely loved it. But the only thing I was like, why did he change the color of the backdrop? Because it's this goldish, kind of goldish orange color of that crack where that you see more on the body, but on the drop is this a little bit more of a red tone. And then when Nicole said it, I was like, wow, yep, that makes sense. I'm mad at myself for even questioning that now, looking at it from that perspective. And now I totally understand. And it was such a perfect choice. So Fernando, such an incredible job on this image. Really loved how you incorporated the backdrop into the actual life of the image.
So very cool. All right.
Image 6.
So yep. Wait, 6. Here we go.
Perfect. So this image is called Lux Vitae, and it's by Jennifer Gifford. And short and sweet, she just said, "Goddess of the galaxy, she is the light of life itself." So Jennifer also participated in last year. And what I love about Jennifer's images is just the way she incorporates colored light, this kind of speckled colored light into each of her images. And this year she uses that, kind of like neon orange, pinky tones and magentas. And I love it. So with that, I will pass it over to Pratik and Ashley.
I'll go first this time. All right.
All right.
So when I saw this image, I immediately thought like goddess creating your own world, like just the creation of life in an essence. I love the lighting on the face, the pink, the gold, the green that's on her chest, and the blue. I excuse me. I love the emblem that is kind of in that circle. If you look closely, if I were to critique anything about this, there is like, if you zoom in, there's kind of a square around the emblem that has texture, which kind of confuses my eye. And then the nose seems to be a little dark. And so I probably would have lightened the nose, just because there's so much focus on the face and that beautiful light that the nose just kind of distracts from that. And then one other comment, you see her hair going down, the fabric that goes over her shoulder. I probably would have tried to bring in that pink and gold lighting that's on her arm there, to bring that light upward and to the circle so your eye continues to move around and focus on the face. But I loved this image, the clouds, the sphere, the glow, the halo. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
Absolutely. I will have to echo everything you said. I mean, I'm such a fan of space and galaxies and everything like that. So when I saw this executed, the first thing that stood out to me was the combination of the lighting and the pose. I love how you immediately connect with her expression right away. You can tell the confidence and that she is a goddess, that she did create something grand. It comes off immediately. I'm trying to think of the other thing was that the lighting was excellent. I love the different color lighting across her face. It's unique because uplighting is also, often really hard to do, and doing it in a way that's stylistic and has a variety of different colors is very fascinating. What I would correct is probably a couple of things. Number one, what she's holding, I believe, would be the galaxy itself. There's so many highlights in there that it does compete a lot for my attention compared to her pose. So probably striking a little bit more of a balance there. I also almost missed, I should say, the patterns in the background. I would have loved to see that maybe a little bit more prominent, going around her, as well as probably the shadow line that's left near the clavicle, where you see the blue light kind of come in and just cut off immediately. I would have cleaned that up a little bit, and just like Ashley said, lighting up little parts of the face that would have balance out that expression there. But aside from that, I just love the theme and how you kind of played with it and added a bit of the clouds and the mist in the foreground there. Exceptional. And again, I would love to see this as a series too, because you can go the distance with this and play with so many different ideas within this whole theme.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I started with a couple of comments, but the one thing that stuck out to me in this image that just kind of doesn't sit well with me is this orb galaxy that she's holding. To me, it looks like a glass paperweight, and not like, I wish it was more galaxy. I wish it was more a orb of stars and galaxies. Right now, it's just because of those highlights Pratik pointed out, and just the depth of field, you can't really tell what it is. It's just kind of like a weirdness of colors that I think just takes away from the image, the overall image. So it's either just kind of like clean it up so that it's a little bit more apparent what it is, or make it kind of just a clear glowy orb or something that just doesn't distract from the image, the overall image itself.
Yeah, I mean, I love the colors of this. I'm always kind of like into more extreme color palette wise. Not to harp on the galaxy that she's holding, but I can probably do without it if it wasn't there, and the light in the galaxy itself was more surrounded. I mean, you already have a lot of attention to detail on the backdrop, but having lights projected on that, kind of surrounding her, because if she's the goddess of the galaxy, she's also living within it too as well. And having that series with just the the color palettes and stuff like that, and creating all these neon lighting, just having more of that galaxy element surrounding her, and that can be projected onto what Ashley was saying, like with like the hair, all that stuff, you know. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think it's a cool concept, and definitely like, you know,
Yeah, absolutely. And
I
this
love
was
it.
the
Yeah,
oh, sorry, Derek. This was the Obsidian silver backdrop.
yeah. Again, it's like I want to look at the eyes, but there's like all these things that are just like distracting me away from that. You know, but
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say, you don't get to see very many people use magenta, so it's very, very cool to see somebody use it in a way that works. And I think the contrast with the color of the backdrop is so great. Like if you were gonna use magenta, this was the perfect time to do it.
Absolutely. Thanks,
All right, so
Jennifer.
we've got one more.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
And again, our last but certainly not least image number 7, called Ascension. So let's see if you know, the audience can pick up on similarities between a couple of our images. So this is called Ascension, and this uses the Obsidian copper drop. This is by Lucia Keel. And Lucia says, when I opened the drop, it immediately made me think of Rust and a more industrial set. I went back and forth a lot about what I wanted to do with that concept, since it's way outside my wheelhouse. I decided to contrast the grace and power of the form of a dancer with the harder industrial style of the set. I created the set out of vintage pieces so that it is more of a timeless or turn of the century industrial versus modern. I used real working vintage pulleys and rope. I wanted to create a through line of the concept of lift and ascension with the pulleys and rope and the leaping dancer. It's about the contrast of grace, beauty, and simplicity of the female form against a more hard and masculine set. I hope that the elements simultaneously contrast and work seamlessly together to create a cohesive piece. So we'll start off with Matty and Nicole.
I love that description because I feel like a lot of this intention that you just read is very well translated here. Um, I mean, a dancer again, so great. I mean, more. That's what I want. I I love the textures of the space, and what speaks to me with this piece is the you mentioned the in the text the hardness, and I see, you know, like the roughness, the hardness, the industrial, also in dancers' bodies, of how hard they work on their bodies, how much effort it takes to be so graceful, or how much effort it takes to break that hardness. In contrast with the female body, I think it's very powerful. And speaking of composition, I think it's very interesting to see the geometrical shapes here. The From left to right, when we have the ladder, we have the dancer framed in multiple ways by the backdrop and by the ropes. And then we have these two, I'm not sure what they are, but these kind of like column-like structures that are, actually, I don't know what they are, but they're beautiful, and they give me a sense of a studio of an artist um, ascending. So they're in the same direction as the dancer. I think the color palette is is very well done, and the only thing that I would change, but that's an artistic choice, is the motion blur on the legs and on the hair. Um, I would just be curious to see it without the motion blur, but I can't tell if I prefer it with or without it. But I would want to see it without it.
Fair enough. I I don't disagree with anything you said. I think those were fantastic observations of this piece. I think the color palette is so beautifully cohesive with these warm, rich browns and tans and yellows contrasted with these more neutral grays and blues. And I think the textures here, all of these really beautiful organic textures are so fantastic. what I really love about this image is the fact that everything is so carefully placed and so carefully planned, but it doesn't feel forced. It still feels natural and organic. And because you said everything's so beautiful, Matti, I almost don't have anything to add. My only tiny, itty bitty, tiny little baby criticism would just be, I don't know that we necessarily need to keep this in frame. It's so bright, you almost don't need it at all. It could be no window there, and I think we would still have just as strong of an image. But that's like a teeny tiny baby thing. And for me, I actually like the motion blur. I think with everything being so still, the fact that we can see her moving and the motion of the hair, I personally like that contrast. But that's it for me. This is a really stunning, if I was a dancer, I would want this photo of myself.
Mm-hmm. Derek?
Yeah, absolutely love this. Just as far as, you know, you're talking about, you know, integrating the figure and form, just the fact that you can look at her and understand that there are hard lines, and then there's, you know, the rope and like just the grace and everything is like well plotted out. I'm like actually wondering like how many shots it took for you to get like that arm positioning, you know, almost like parallel with those ropes, as well as like, you know, like the hard lines straight with her leg down, you know, that's, you know, mimicking a lot of like the parallel lines, the horizontal and the vertical lines. I do agree with the window, but I also would love to have seen the whole set itself flipped, so she's facing the window, to kind of get that shine like right on the front of the body. Obviously, I don't know like how long it took to set this up, but you know, just like having that in a different perspective, almost to kind of like highlight the, you know, even like the jawline, that kind of stuff. Because right now I'm getting like most of the highlight on the back side of the model. And about the like the motion blur itself, probably like half and half. Like I want to see like the body be perfectly you know, clear with like, but the hair itself to have that flicker up. I know you're probably asking a lot of the model to like do all these things, but you know, just to have like the form of the body to be like more still than like the hair whip back at like the last second, just to get that blur, but the rest of the body would be intact. But yeah, I absolutely love the incorporation of just like, you know, the colors and like the mood setting. It's like absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So this drop is the Obsidian copper drop that I talked about before. That is one of my favorite that Derek has ever painted. If you look at that, the greens, the kind of orangey, rusty, bronzy tones, the texture of it is just such a beautiful drop. And I'm selfish and I can't wait to be able to use this myself. As we were looking at this image more and more, and the comments that everyone had in it, the fact that I didn't even pick up on this originally, but like the kind of the natural progression of ascension from the columns, you know, one column is higher than the other, and then the dancer is higher, and then the ladder that goes higher, so that continues to ascend. The model herself is ascending. So all of that kind of background theme that is just played into every part of this image is really well thought out, and whether that's on purpose or not, it's incredible. So super beautiful. I do agree about the window. You know, one thing that I was like, that curtain especially just kind of is a little bit, just takes away from this image. So yeah, get rid of that window, keep that window light, of course, but and also that thing on the bottom right leaning up against the ladder, I just don't know what it is. It doesn't take away from the image. I just wish for myself I knew what it was.
Is it a wooden spool?
I don't know.
Alex,
I don't know. Lucia, if you're watching, can you tell us what that is? Because I want to know.
Is it a tabletop maybe?
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. Like I said, it's not a distracting piece of the image. I just wish I knew what it was. So that concludes our top 7 images, which are all entirely incredible. As I've noted, Nicole, if you want, you can shut down that image if you'd like, or actually,
Alrighty.
yeah, if you want to.
Sure.
But as I noted, we have been kind of chatting on the side, kind of talking about where we see all of the images and where we want to see them placed. So what we're going to do is we're going to announce the top 3 winners. And basically, so the 3rd place winner is going to win 25% off a 6x9 backdrop. 2nd place is going to get 50% off a 6x9 backdrop, and 1st place is going to win a free 6x9 backdrop from us. So you get to, and all 3 of you winners get to go through our artisanal process, which is one of my favorite things about Obsidian Studios. You get to work with Derek, hand in hand, step by step, to design the backdrop of your dreams. So you're going to get on an artist call with Derek. You're going to build mood boards, color palettes, all of that stuff. And then Derek is going to basically walk you through the whole process. He's going to, as he paints, he's going to be sending you updated photos. And then we'll send you a little welcome package and your backdrop. The other thing we also have to give away, thanks to Pratik and his infinite tools, we're going to give away an infinite tool of the winner's choice to a lucky winner as well. So with that, we're going to start with our 3rd place winner, which is Storytime by Rebecca Shepard. Rebecca, such an incredible job. As we all said, that image was so beautiful and so well done. The actual storytelling of that image was just impeccable, and we loved it. And for those of you who don't know, Rebecca, I believe, took 2nd place last year. So she has placed twice, 2 years in a row. So next year, we're not allowing her to compete because that's unfair. Just kidding, apply. So really congrats, Rebecca. We're so happy that you competed again. And before we get into, we'll do 2nd place first. So our 2nd place winner was receiving 50% off a backdrop is Bad Apple by Stacy McDonald.
Let me find it. Yay, Stacy!
Yes, amazing.
Both of them.
Yeah, I think Stacy, if I remember correctly, was in the 1st round of photographers. And so her image was one of the first ones to come in, if I remember correctly. And I was just like, is this how it starts? Is this like what? This is how the competition has started, and I have no idea what is even going to happen from here. I immediately sent it to Derek, and I was like, what is it even happening already? So Stacy, really incredible job. Congratulations.
Yay, Stacy!
Yeah, so Pratik, would you like to announce the Infinite Tools panel winner?
Yes, absolutely. So the Infinite Tools panel winner is going to be none other than Lucia Keel with Ascension. And that was one that I just loved a lot. I felt just so happy looking at it. It gave me so much joy, and I just loved everything. The color palette, it's just beautiful. So Lucia, congratulations, and you can get in touch with myself, and you're able to pick any Infinite tool that you like, and I'll be happy to send it over.
Mm-hmm.
Yay, congrats, Lucia!
Congrats, Lucia. That's such an amazing prize. I'm jealous of it. So with that, it's time to announce our 1st place winner. But before we do so, I know I speak for both Derek and I, but we want to thank all of our panels of judges. Nicole, thank you so much for hosting year after year. You're such a lovely soul for doing this.
Of course.
Pratik, Ashley, Matt T, thank you so much for all of your wonderful feedback and critique and thoughts. Your input was so valuable, and I'm sure the artists really appreciated everything that you said. We can't wait to do this again next year for our 4th annual. So please be on a lookout later this year, probably October-ish, for our announcement for applications. All are welcome. We hope that we can make it bigger and better every year. So, start getting your thinking caps on now, and be ready for that, because as you can see from this year, it just keeps going up. So with that, Derek, would you like to announce our first place winner?
Yes. So the first place winner and gets a free 6x9 backdrop, Fernando Rodriguez with Fracture.
Yes.
Where's it at? There we go.
Fernando, this was another one of those images similar to, when Stacy sent me hers. This image, I was like, this is it. I kind of felt like it was the winner to begin with, just because of what this challenge is all about. It's a backdrop challenge, really. And at the grand scheme of things, it's a backdrop challenge. And you use the backdrop, the one that's supposed to be hard to use, the challenge drop, the one Derek tries to, kind of get artists to really think and move themselves outside of the box. You incorporated that so well into your image, and that, we're so blown away, and, so happy to have this. Congrats. So feel free to contact us when you're ready for your backdrop. And just as a little thank you to everyone else from 4th place down to 14th, we are also going to give everyone else 15% off a backdrop order. We all appreciate you so much, and want to give back as much as we can. So be sure to use that. I'll send everyone the details on that in an email, so look out for that. But again, thank you. Everyone should be proud of themselves, even if you didn't make the top 7. Anyone could have. And like I said, we're talking about a matter of single votes that separated certain images apart. And just remember that the people voting they don't determine how great of an artist you are. All of your images were incredible. We're so happy to have them. And with that, thank you all for joining. And I will pass it over to Nicole to say goodbye.
It's time to do my hostly duties. So first of all, again, to Jay and Derek, thank you for letting me host. I'm honored every year, and I feel really, really lucky that I get to be one of the people to see these like live and real and get to talk about them, because they're so outstanding. This photography community is such an incredible group of folks with such unique ideas and inspiration and way of expressing themselves. It is a true joy to get to see Derek's art go out and then people interpret from his art, and it's a really beautiful partnership. And I feel like these entrants all showed that when you get to work with an incredible artist, you're able to make incredible art. So super well done to everybody. Thanks for letting me do this. Everybody who was here and participated today, so many good comments, so many incredible insights. I wish I could have shared them all. Unfortunately, we're always on a timeline, but thank you guys for being here. I hope that you will let everybody know about Obsidian Studios, because this is an incredible partnership, a couple of really amazing artists. And like I said before, if you want to make amazing art, you need to work with amazing artists. So you want to get backdrops from these guys. They're some of the best in the business. So make sure that you do that. Also, don't forget, if you haven't had any infinite tools in your past, like in your workflow, you need those things. They are so handy. Pratik and his team have made some really incredible stuff to use. So make sure you go check out that and follow all these guys everywhere. Go show them love for showing up today and giving everybody feedback. Make sure you come back next year. And like Jay said, be paying attention for when they announce the next challenge, because you want to be part of this. So have a fantastic week, year, all the things. Go make amazing stuff. Make sure you join us next time. Say goodbye, everybody.
Just one little thing.
Oh,
Also, be sure to follow along Nicole's author journey. Her books are wonderful. The world building she does is beautiful. So be sure to get her books and read them and support her because she's an incredible author.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. Well done, everybody. Big congrats today to the winners. Go make amazing things and keep sharing them, y'all. And until the next Backdrop Studio Challenge, bye.
Yes.
Bye.
You.
Thank you.